Spider-Man 2 is out, and yeah, it's the greatest game ever, but we are not here to talk about that today. Instead of doing a review like every other YouTuber, I decided to do things my way and cover who is the stronger of the Spider duo, Peter or Miles. This video obviously contains spoilers for the second game, and I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, this matchup is not nearly as hype or close as you guys may think. Now, before going into the scaling for the second game, let's go over the pre-established feats going into it. Peter was able to beat up the likes of the Sinister Six, though it was mainly through strategy rather than straight up power like in Rhino's case. And he himself at least can tank direct blows from Electro with little to no damage, who's able to break down stone towers pretty casually. He's also been doing this for like over 10 years, so he pretty much has a decade ahead of experience over Miles, and unlike Miles, Peter has a bunch of tech that allows him to go beyond his limits, and overall approach certain situations a lot better than Miles ever could, whether it be through his tech arms or the gravity or stun weapons, you name it. At least when going into this fight, I feel like Peter definitely has the versatility and experience over Miles and probably knows how he fights a lot better than vice versa, so that's what I believe what is going to be going for Peter when talking about this matchup. Legit, the most common arguments I hear going for Peter are just, oh, he's been Spider-Man longer, or oh, he has a lot more tech. But unfortunately for Peter though, I feel like the main thing that defines this versus match is the physical stat department, which I think Miles just blows Peter out of the water completely. Firstly, in his game, we see him do better against Rhino, though it's mainly through his electrical power and him actually being able to stun Rhino. However, we see later on in the story that the Tinkerer is able to block a stronger Rhino's blows, and Miles fights a stronger Tinkerer while holding back. This is pretty consistent as well, since by the end of the game, Miles is able to absorb a good portion of a literal nuke, meaning the amount of force he can output more than likely is just way higher than Peter's. Like, you have Miles surviving a bomb that was going to wipe out the city, meanwhile you have Peter, who can like withstand Electro's electricity for a bit that can destroy a stone pillar. And I'm already gonna see in the comments, well, Peter probably has better mastery with the spider sense, so he probably has a speed or skill gap over Miles. But I feel like by the time of Spider-Man 2, I don't even think you can make this argument, as we see that not only does Miles have a way of actually harming Sandman, but when both him and Peter try evading a hit from him, we see Peter getting tagged and not Miles. And I feel like in Spider-Man 2, the Miles stuff is very consistent, as we see him go on to fight Peter with the symbiote, and he's not only able to react and tag Peter, but straight up beat him to the point where Peter can break out of the symbiote. And yes, I know Peter was conflicted in fighting the symbiote, however, Miles isn't obviously trying to kill Peter either, so there's no real argument for symbiote Peter being actually stronger than Miles, at least by this point. I do think if he wasn't conflicted, and let's just say the symbiote took over and made Peter just purely bloodlusted, he'd probably beat Miles, but even then, I think that is debatable. You see, when we get into the last mission of the game, Miles is able to at least put up a fight against a stronger Venom than the one that Peter initially dealt with in his anti-Venom suit, meaning he more than likely can fight symbiote Spider-Man, as he's doing better than another symbiote Spider-Man. Though anti-Venom Spider-Man versus Venom Spider-Man is a debate in itself, I feel like that really doesn't matter, as Miles at the end of the day is able to push a bloodlusted Venom, which logically should be above a bloodlusted Peter, but again, I think it's debatable. And from what we see at the end of the game, the narrative seems to push that idea that Peter isn't really needed as much and can take a break since Miles is out here carrying. If you guys don't want to accept Miles beating the black suit, then at the very least, you gotta accept that he's stronger than Spider-Man base to base, and he would just straight up get punched into a locker by Miles if he doesn't have the symbiote. And even if he does have the symbiote, he might low-key lose, bro. Miles is actually him. But yeah, this is why Peter versus Miles isn't close.